I never intended to reveal my truth. For years, I played the role my family assigned me. The underachieving disappointment, the girl who never lived up to her potential, the one who everyone talked over during dinner and forgot to invite to planning texts. But I was fine with that, or at least I had convinced myself I was. Until the day the truth walked into my parents' backyard wearing Ray-Bans and carrying the kind of swagger that cracks fragile illusions. But let me rewind. It was the second Saturday of August, our annual Hartley family cookout, a spectacle that took place on my dad's pristine lawn with matching checkered tablecloths and a rotating menu of grilled meats and passive-aggressive remarks. The same one I had shown up to for 12 years with a store-brand side dish and a forced smile. "Zoe, you made it." My mother's tone hovered somewhere between surprise and disappointment. Still doing that receptionist thing? I adjusted my plain maxi dress, the same one I wore every year, and nodded. Administrative assistant mom, at Greystone, which wasn't a lie. I was technically the admin assistant listed on Greystone Media's public site. What my family didn't know was that Greystone was mine. All of it. I acquired it 3 years ago through a holding firm I built while they thought I was bouncing between temp jobs and unemployment. But my favorite part: watching them guess how I paid rent. My older brother Caleb swaggered over Bluetooth still in his ear. "Hey Z, don't take it the wrong way, but have you thought about learning UX design or something more future-proof?" I resisted the urge to roll my eyes. Caleb worked in tech sales. He'd been mentoring me since I was 18, mainly by reminding me I was a cautionary tale. "Nice of you to bring, potato salad?" he asked, squinting into my covered bowl like it was a prop from a thrift store cooking show. "It's quinoa," I replied. He blinked. "Oh." The conversation ended there, thankfully. As the day wore on, I moved through the crowd like a ghost. Aunt May asked if I was still dating that weird jazz guy I wasn't. Uncle Ted offered to help me spruce up my resume. My cousin Brooke casually mentioned her third investment property while handing me a paper plate. It was all routine, until the silver Audi pulled into the driveway. The kind of car that made people straighten their backs and pretend their lives were in order. A few people turned. One neighbor outright gawked. I froze. Because stepping out of that car, button-down sleeves, rolled sunglasses tucked into his shirt, was Adrian Wells. Adrian, my COO, and one of the only people who knew the truth. "What the hell is he doing here?" I whispered, instantly nauseous. "Who's that?" Caleb asked, suddenly interested. Adrian looked around, then smiled and walked not toward my brother or my parents or the bigger crowd gathered around the grill, but toward me. "Ms. Rivera," he greeted with a teasing smile. "Didn't expect to find you at the world's most aggressively normal barbecue." I could feel the air shift. Caleb turned to me slowly. My mother, who had just arrived with another tray of deviled eggs, paused mid-step. Someone dropped a soda can. "You know him?" she asked, blinking. Adrian extended his hand to shake hers. "Pleasure to meet you, Mrs. Rivera. I'm Adrian, COO at Greystone Media." Aunt May gasped. "But Zoe's just she does scheduling or—" "What is it again, honey?" my mom asked, bewildered. Adrian smiled, patient but sharp. "Zoe founded Greystone 3 years ago. I report to her." Silence. The kind that wraps around your throat. My father looked like someone had unplugged him. Caleb actually choked on his beer. And I finally exhaled. "Wait," my cousin muttered. "You're the CEO?" I turned toward her with a polite smile. "Founder, CEO, owner, depends on the day." "Brooke?" The one with the investment properties blinked like someone had rebooted her. "But you bring quinoa," my mother stammered. "You drive a Corolla." "Because I like quinoa," I said. "And the Corolla's mine. Bought it outright. No car payment, no nonsense." The murmurs around us grew louder. Someone whispered my name. Someone else tried to discreetly look me up on LinkedIn. Adrian glanced at me. "Sorry if I ruined the surprise." I shook my head, still composed. "No, I think the show was overdue." Caleb spoke next, face flushed. "So what, you've been lying to us?" "No," I said. "I've been protecting my peace." Adrian gave me a look that said, "Take it from here," and I nodded. "For years, I said clearly, you all made assumptions about me. About what I could do, what I couldn't do. I figured if I said nothing, you'd treat me like who you thought I was." Turns out I was right. "You were never ambitious," my dad said quietly. "No?" "Dad," I corrected, "I just didn't tell you about it." And with that, the room that was once a backyard fell into chaos. You could practically hear the record scratch in real time. My dad stepped back like I'd slapped him. My mom sat down so fast she almost missed the chair. Caleb just kept blinking like he couldn't believe the hologram of his underachieving little sister had suddenly morphed into a tech mogul. I wanted to feel smug, vindicated, but all I felt was tired. You mean to tell me, my mom said slowly, that this whole time, you've been running a company that Adrian guy works for you? I nodded. He's been with me since the second acquisition. Helped double our market cap last year. She squinted like I'd started speaking French, but you never said a word? You let us believe that I was failing. I interrupted. That I was floating from job to job, living in a shoebox, doing nothing with my life. No one answered, but the silence screamed yes. I didn't let you believe anything I said. You decided that all by yourselves. Aunt May muttered something about being blindsided. Brooke was furiously typing something on her phone, probably updating her group chat. I imagined the message, "Zoe is a CEO, WTF." Then finally the most predictable voice in the world broke through. "You know what this is," Caleb snapped, stepping forward. "This is betrayal. You lied to all of us." "I didn't lie," I said calmly. "I just didn't perform for you." "You let me give you career advice," he barked. "You let Mom ask if you needed help with your taxes." I tilted my head. "And now I'm wondering why none of you ever thought to ask what I thought." He huffed. "This is about ego." I laughed. "No, Caleb, it's about boundaries." My mom shook her head slowly. "You wore Walmart shoes, Zoe. You brought off-brand soda to Easter brunch. You always sat at the corner like you were embarrassed to be here." "I wasn't embarrassed," I said. I was tired of playing along, of watching Caleb be praised for mediocrity and me being mocked for trying anything different. "You mean Caleb's six-figure job in tech?" Aunt May blurted. Adrian coughed gently. "I've seen his portfolio. I wouldn't brag." Dead silence. Caleb turned on him. "Excuse me?" Adrian didn't flinch. "Your campaigns underperform. Your churn rate is appalling. And those client slides from Q1, they were copied from a competitor poorly." I almost felt bad. Almost. "You're just saying that because she signs your paycheck," Caleb shouted. "No," Adrian replied. "I'm saying it because it's true, and because Zoe's been fixing your mistakes quietly for over a year." My mother looked like someone had unplugged her again. "But if she's the CEO, why come to these things and act so average?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Because I was average to you, no matter what I did. So I stopped trying to impress you." That's when Uncle Don decided to throw his beer into the ring. "All right, well, maybe this is just some weird feminist thing. You wanted to make a point, fine. But keeping all this secret, that's manipulative." I turned to him, exhausted. "Uncle Don, you faked 3 job titles in the past decade and asked to borrow money from my receptionist salary more than once. Maybe sit this one out." A few chuckles broke the tension. Aunt May looked mortified. Caleb looked murderous. But the worst moment came next. My dad stood, quietly, slowly, like something inside him cracked open. "All those years," he said, his voice low, "I wondered what happened to you. You were brilliant in school. You wanted to be an entrepreneur. But then you just faded. We thought maybe you'd given up." I didn't speak, because they were the ones who made me fade. "When I said you lacked direction," he went on, I didn't know you were doing all this behind our backs." "You never asked," I said. "You should have told us," he said, almost pleading. I looked him straight in the face. "Would you have believed me?" He opened his mouth, closed it again. "Exactly. Why now?" Caleb demanded. "Why let the cat out of the bag today?" I glanced at Adrian. "Because change is coming. Greystone's about to go public. I can't stay anonymous anymore." A gasp rippled through the group. "You're going public?" Brooke asked. "Next quarter," Adrian confirmed. "She'll be front and center." "That means money, right?" someone whispered. "Like real money?" I ignored that. But I didn't miss the way Aunt May suddenly smiled at me like I was her favorite niece. Or how Uncle Don's entire posture changed, as if I'd become useful again. Too late. "You know what," Caleb said, voice shaking. "Screw this. You can throw around all the titles and money you want. You'll always be the one who missed Dad's birthday to do spreadsheets." I stared at him. That was the night of our biggest acquisition. "I closed a $60 million deal while you were eating store-bought cake." He laughed bitter. "So that's what matters to you?" "No," I said. "What matters to me is being seen. And for once, I think you all finally are." Later that night, when the guests had trickled out and the lawn was littered with half-empty bottles and cold burgers, I stayed behind to help clean up. My mom joined me in the kitchen, awkwardly rinsing serving trays. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked, quieter now. "Not angry, just small." I shrugged. Every time I tried, it turned into a lecture about settling down. Or doing something real. So I stopped trying. She looked down at the sponge in her hands. "We thought we were helping." "No, Mom," I said. You were measuring me against a ruler I never agreed to. She looked at me, tears in her eyes. Is there any way to undo the damage? I hesitated, then shook my head. You can't undo it, but maybe you can stop repeating it. We didn't hug. There was no tearful reconciliation, just mutual understanding, fragile and new. As I got in my car, Adrian texted me. Still good for tomorrow's strategy call. I typed back. Definitely. Just have to shake off 32 years of familial gaslighting first. His reply came instantly. You crushed it today. FYI, HR flagged Caleb's resume. It's padded, like a lot. I smiled. Let it sit. Karma needs time to bake. It's strange what people remember when they realize they've underestimated you. Within 48 hours of the cookout, I had 6 new friend requests from cousins I hadn't spoken to since high school. 2, let's catch up emails from relatives who once told me I was wasting my degree, and a voicemail from Aunt May that ended with, "We always knew you had it in you, sweetie. Oh, now I'm sweet." Even better, my dad sent me an article titled Signs of a Visionary CEO with the note, "This reminded me of you." Proud. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. But the crown jewel of post-reveal chaos came from Caleb. He stormed into Greystone's lobby 2 days later, didn't even call first. My receptionist, a sharp former intern I'd personally promoted, texted me a warning. Your brother is here. He's got main character energy and bad cologne. I sighed. Send him up. He walked into my office like he owned the building. You humiliated me, he said before even sitting down. Good morning to you too, I replied. He leaned across my desk. You could have warned me, Zoe. You let me stand there like an idiot. I didn't let you do anything. You showed up as yourself. That's not my responsibility. He scoffed. You made me look like a fraud. I locked eyes with him. Then maybe stop being one. Silence. Then he flopped into the guest chair, trying to regain composure. Look, I get it. You were hiding in plain sight. You won. But do you know what this does to me? I don't care, I said plainly. He blinked. Excuse me? I don't care. I leaned forward. You bullied me for years. Mocked my work, insulted my apartment, my clothes. And now that the tables have turned, you want grace? I was trying to motivate you, he said weakly. No, Caleb, you were trying to feel taller by shrinking me. He looked away, jaw tight. I'm not here to make you feel better about the person you were, I added. I'm here to run a company. One you nearly embarrassed in front of stakeholders with that sloppy AI pitch last quarter, by the way. He stiffened. You reviewed that. I review everything. The color drained from his face. Is that why I didn't get the promotion, he asked, voice cracking slightly. I tilted my head. You mean the one you weren't qualified for? Yeah. That's why. His shoulders dropped. For a moment, he wasn't the smug older brother or the corporate posturer. He was just a guy who'd realized the sandbox wasn't his anymore. Anything else, I asked. No, he muttered. Just don't expect me to clap at the IPO. I smirked. Good. I'd rather you watch in silence. He left without another word. Later that night, my mom called. Again. I've been thinking, she said, maybe we should throw a little celebration. Just the family. Show our support. I almost dropped my phone. You want to celebrate the daughter you ignored for a decade? Now? I'm trying, Zoe. Try harder. There was a long pause. I talked to Caleb, she offered. And he's struggling. Caleb's always been struggling. The difference is he used to feel superior while doing it. Another silence. You know, she said carefully, I still remember when you were 6 and told me you wanted to own all the buildings in the city. We laughed. Thought it was cute. It wasn't cute, I said. It was real. I'm sorry we didn't see it. I exhaled. I stopped needing your vision. I built my own. 3 days later, the boardroom was packed for our quarterly executive meeting. It was the first one I'd attended in person in over a year. I walked in wearing a fitted black blazer and pointed heels. People sat straighter when they saw me. I noticed. The last item on the agenda, marketing department restructuring. Madison. Our outgoing director and my cousin shifted nervously. She'd tried to ride the family connection one too many times. This won't take long, I said, pulling up a slide. The following promotions will take effect next week. I announced 3 new leads, all women, all under 35, all previously overlooked because they didn't fit the mold. Madison's face paled. She knew. And finally, I continued, there will be a vacancy for the senior director role. Madison's voice cracked. Wait, what? You're being reassigned to a new division, I said smoothly. A satellite team in Denver. Great opportunity to build from the ground up. I have no desire to relocate, she snapped. It's not a request. There was a sharp intake of breath from across the table. Madison turned red. You're punishing me for not kissing up, aren't you? I smiled ice cold. No, I'm rewarding people who actually do the work. Meeting adjourned. The emails started within hours. Relatives I hadn't heard from since I was just Zoe, with the mediocre job now suddenly had bright ideas, business ventures, and emotional revelations. Aunt May wanted a catch-up coffee. Uncle Don forwarded me a business plan for a mobile app that already existed. Even Brooke sent me an email titled, "Pitching myself as Greystone's next influencer hire." I didn't open any of them. Instead, I drafted one final email. To my entire extended family. A reply all to end all reply alls. Subject, rechecking in. Hi everyone. Appreciate the sudden interest in my career, life, soul. I spent over a decade watching you write me off. And now that I've proven you wrong, I'm supposed to reward that with access. No. If you want opportunities, earn them. Like I did, without shortcuts. Greystone is not a family business. And I am not your safety net. Zoe. Within minutes, Aunt May texted me. That was a bit harsh, wasn't it? I didn't respond. Adrian messaged me, bold, necessary, iconic. I smiled, sat back in my chair, and opened the proposal for our IPO media strategy. Because while my family was still spinning in circles of ego and entitlement, I had a company to run and a legacy to protect. And nothing was going to pull me back into the version of myself they wanted me to be. The day after I hit send on that email, my dad showed up at Greystone. No call, no appointment. Just walked into reception in his favorite fishing jacket like he was stopping by the post office. Reception buzzed me. There's a man here claiming to be your father. Should I call security or HR? I sighed. Just HR. He's more stubborn than dangerous. I met him in the side lounge, not my office. He hadn't earned that space yet. He sat stiffly on the faux leather couch clutching an envelope. I'm not here to fight, he said before I could speak. Good, I replied. Because you wouldn't win. A twitch of a smile. He set the envelope on the table. What's this? Old report cards. Art projects? That ceramic owl you made in 3rd grade. You kept those? He nodded. We weren't always good at showing it, but we were proud. I picked up the owl. It was cracked down the middle. The irony wasn't lost on me. We didn't know how to raise someone like you, he continued. You mean someone who didn't fit the mold? Someone who didn't wait for permission. That one landed. He exhaled long and slow. I was hard on you. Yeah, I said. You were. I thought it would make you tougher. I didn't realize it made you quieter. For the first time, I saw it. The man who raised me, not the disappointed dad, not the loudest voice at the barbecue, but someone smaller, someone unsure, someone learning. I didn't tell you what I was building, I said, because I knew you'd laugh. I probably would have, he admitted. We sat in silence for a minute. Then he asked, Is there any chance we start over? I looked at him, genuinely considering it. I don't need a new beginning, I said. I just need honesty going forward. He nodded slowly. And maybe I added a little less fishing jacket at my office. He chuckled. Deal. That weekend I visited my grandmother. She'd been the only one who ever believed I'd be something more. She'd slip me 20s and birthday cards and whisper, Use this for your business someday, not rent. She was sitting on the porch in her favorite floral sweater when I pulled up in my new Tesla. Took you long enough, she said without looking up. You heard. Sweetheart, the whole town heard. Brooke practically ran through the grocery store shouting it. I sat beside her. She handed me a cup of peppermint tea. I always knew you'd do something big, she said, but I didn't think you'd have to do it so alone. My throat tightened. It was the only way I could survive. She nodded. That's the Rivera way. We survive. But I want better for you. I want you to live. We sat in silence, sipping tea. Are you proud of me? I asked quietly. She didn't answer with words, just reached over and squeezed my hand. The IPO announcement came a week later. The press exploded. Greystone Media was trending across platforms. Every blog, business site, and investor newsletter had my name in it. Zoe Rivera. The Ghost. CEO who built an empire in the shadows. Your face is everywhere, Adrian texted. Even my dentist brought you up. I'd never felt more exposed, and yet more powerful. Then came the invitations. Podcasts, panels, alumni features, even a TEDx pitch. But the one that gutted me, a gala. The Hartley Family Foundation's annual fundraiser, hosted by none other than Aunt May. And yes, I'd been specially invited to speak. I called her. Zoe, she chirped, so glad you got the invite. We're thrilled you'll be joining us. I won't. Her tone shifted. Oh, You weren't thrilled about me when I was your lazy niece with no drive. You don't get to use me now that I'm PR gold. That's not fair, she huffed. No, I said, it's finally fair. Then I hung up. I spent the next day sorting through old journals, notes from my first business pitch, hand-drawn org charts from the era when I couldn't even afford real software, dreams scrawled in the margins of napkins and paperbacks. I found a list I'd written at 24 titled, Things I'll Buy When I Make It, a king-sized bed, a French press, an espresso machine, custom sneakers, an office with windows, respect. I had all of them now except maybe number 6, at least not from the people who used to matter. And then I realized maybe they didn't need to matter anymore. A week later, we hosted Greystone's first in-house community event, an open-door showcase with our staff, their families, and local students curious about tech. I stood in the middle of it all, watching interns give demos, engineers high-five over completed mock-ups, parents taking pictures in front of our step and repeat banner. A girl walked up to me, maybe 12, wearing a lanyard she'd clearly made her sell. "You're the boss lady?" she asked. I grinned. "I guess I am." She looked around. "It's cool. Everyone here looks like they actually want to be here." "They do," I said, "because we built a place where showing up as yourself isn't punished." She nodded like she understood, like maybe no one let her do that yet, but she would someday. And that's when I knew this was the legacy I cared about. Not the approval of aunts or cousins or siblings who'd only ever seen what they wanted to, but becoming someone younger me would have felt safe around. It's amazing how success doesn't just change how others see you, it changes how you see them. After the IPO went public and the numbers came in better than forecasted, Greystone exploded. Our valuation tripled. I was suddenly someone people Googled before meetings. Investors wanted coffee. Former doubters wanted credit. LinkedIn messages poured in like rain on a tin roof, relentless and loud. I didn't reply to most, but one caught my eye. Subject, long time no talk. From Madison Rivera. Ah, my cousin who once told me I'd wasted my 20s chasing fake careers. I opened it. "Hey Zoe, I know things have been tense en santé, but I wanted to say congrats on the IPO. That's huge. Also totally understand if this is weird, but there's a position opening at your LA office. Think I could be a fit?" I stared at the screen. Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I was wrong." Just, "What can you give me now that you're valuable?" I didn't reply. Instead, I forwarded the email to HR and flagged it as external applicant. They could deal with her resume like anyone else. That's how you dismantle nepotism policy, not pity. 2 days later, I got an invite from my mother. A brunch. Nothing fancy, just close family. One last attempt, she said, to make things right. I didn't want to go, but I needed to. Not for closure, for confirmation. I wore navy slacks and a white silk blouse. Simple, sharp, unmissable. The hostess looked surprised when I said, "Rivera party of 5. She recognized me. Most people did now. The table was already full when I arrived. My parents, Caleb, Aunt May, and Madison. Of course. I sat down. No hugs, no fake smiles, just stillness. "Zoe?" My mother began, "Thank you for coming." I gave her a curt nod. "Why are we here?" She faltered. "Well, we thought maybe this could be a reset." Reset implies something was functional to begin with. My dad cleared his throat. "We've been talking, as a family, and we realized maybe we didn't handle things as gracefully as we could have." "You think?" Aunt May jumped in. "Let's not be sarcastic, we're trying to build bridges." "No," I said flatly. "You're trying to build a platform off my success." Madison leaned forward. "Zoe, come on, we're family. We made mistakes, but at some point don't you think it's time to stop being cold about it?" I looked at her. "All those years you called me directionless. The jabs at my car, my job, my choices. You said I was jealous when I called out your manipulative work habits. And now suddenly you want in on the benefits." "I said I was sorry," she snapped. "No," I corrected. "You implied regret. Not once have you said the words." She opened her mouth, closed it, looked down at her untouched mimosa. Caleb tried next. "Look, I was harsh. I get it. But you hiding your success, how do you think that made us feel?" "I wasn't trying to make you feel anything I said. I was trying to protect myself." Aunt May sighed. "Zoe, be reasonable. Families fight. We move on." I stood. "That's the problem. You move on without ever owning what you did." My mom looked up, eyes wet. "We didn't know how to support you." "No," I said. "You just didn't want to support a version of me you couldn't control." The silence was thick. "You wanted me to chase titles you understood. jobs that sounded good at weddings. But I built something real while you were too busy trying to manage my image. Zoe. No more brunches. No more apologies wrapped in manipulation. This isn't resentment. This is clarity. I reached into my bag and pulled out a single envelope. My dad blinked. What's that? A revocation letter. For the trust fund I quietly set up for Caleb's kids. He paled. I funded it anonymously last year. Thought maybe my success could still benefit the next generation, even if the last one didn't deserve it. But then Caleb came into my office, demanded answers, and acted like I owed him a title. So now, that fund's being redirected. Women in tech, first-gen founders, people who remind me of who I was before you all made me feel like nothing. My mom started to cry. I didn't flinch. You can keep crying, I said gently. Or you can start listening. And with that, I walked out of the restaurant past confused waitstaff and silent stares through the front doors and into a life no longer built around earning back a family's respect. Back at my office, Adrian was waiting. He had coffee, I had fury. You okay? He asked as we walked to the conference room. I'm free, I said. That's better than okay. Brutal brunch. Final exam, I replied, and they all failed. He handed me my coffee. They always do when the rubric changes. Later that night, I posted something on my personal Instagram. I hadn't touched the account in months. Caption: Success doesn't change who you are. It reveals who never really saw you. It got shared over 1,000 times. Old friends messaged me. Former classmates reached out. Strangers commented things like, "This hit too hard and this just healed something in me." But my favorite? A DM from a girl named Samira. I work in marketing, entry level. They say I'm too quiet to lead. Just wanted you to know your story helped me decide to start building something of my own. Even if no one sees it yet, I replied. They will, just don't wait for permission. 6 months later, Greystone's IPO success had become one of the year's most talked about tech stories. Forbes ran a feature calling me the silent architect of a new leadership standard. CNBC named us one of the top companies to work for. I was approached for a book deal. I declined. The real story didn't need to be sold. It needed to be lived. I was done explaining myself. I wasn't a brand. I wasn't a persona. I was Zoe. Just Zoe. One morning, I arrived at work earlier than usual. The building was still half asleep. Lights flickered on as I walked through the quiet hall's heels echoing off polished floors. I passed the framed photo wall employee highlights our community outreach days, our mentorship programs. Right in the middle, a candid shot of me laughing with 2 interns. Unposed, unfiltered, real. I smiled. Upstairs, my assistant had left a note on my desk. Board meeting at 10. But take your time, you've earned it. J. Underneath it, a sticky note in her handwriting. P.S. Everyone downstairs is still talking about your no nepotism, no nonsense policy. Iconic. I made my coffee, slowly savoring the quiet. This piece was new and deeply earned. At the board meeting, we announced our next philanthropic initiative, a fund for young founders from marginalized communities. We called it Project River. No one questioned the name. They knew. That afternoon, I called HR. I want to open up internal mobility roles to non-traditional candidates. I said, people who may not have the fancy degrees but do the work. My head of HR nodded. Like you. Exactly. Weeks passed, then came Thanksgiving. My parents invited me again. Different tone this time. Less guilt. More hope. I decided to go, not because I owed them anything, because I needed to see for myself whether they were capable of real change. When I pulled into the driveway, my dad was waiting on the porch. He didn't wave, just nodded. Small. Humble. Inside, the house smelled like cinnamon and baked bread. My mother hugged me longer than necessary. There was no spotlight, no forced compliments, just quieter energy. Like maybe they were finally learning how to sit with discomfort. Dinner was uneventful until my mom raised her glass. I want to toast Zoe, she said softly. Not just because she's successful, but because she did it without asking us for anything, and still gave back more than we deserved. I raised my glass, said nothing, but I felt the shift. Real, earned, fragile, and still enough. That night back at my place, I found the last item on my someday list from years ago. Chapter 7. Rewrite what family means. I crossed it off, then rewrote it. 7. Choose peace even if you have to build it alone. 1 week later, I stood on a rooftop in downtown LA at a Greystone event holding a glass of champagne. Around me were engineers, designers, interns, marketers, laughing, connecting, growing. This wasn't just my company. It was my correction. For every, "You're not enough." Every, "Why don't you try something easier?" Every single side comment that chipped away at who I could have been. Greystone wasn't just a brand. It was my answer. Before I left that night, I stood at the edge of the rooftop city lights buzzing below. Adrian joined me, as always. "Still not tired of proving them wrong?" he asked. I shook my head. "I'm done proving anything." He raised an eyebrow. "So what now?" I took a deep breath. I build the next thing. Not out of spite, not for applause, but because I can. Legacy. "No," I said. "Freedom." He nodded, raised his glass. "To freedom, then." "To choosing yourself," I added. I left the rooftop smiling. Not because I won, but because I no longer needed to. There's a strange quiet power in being the person they never saw coming. Then realizing you don't need to be seen by them at all. You were always enough. They just weren't ready. And now, you don't need their permission to shine. Story 2. I was standing in front of Boston's most famous Italian eatery, Bella Luna, gazing at my image in the ornate windows. 15 years ago, when I was a teenage waiter, I cleaned the same windows. At the age of 33, I now own the whole hospitality firm that purchased this restaurant 3 months prior. Although my family still refers to me as Liv, when they remember to call me at all, my name is Olivia Mitchell. My sister Madison's birthday was being celebrated tonight, and it was going to be just as awkward as any other family get-together I'd been to in the last 10 years. "Miss Mitchell, your customary table is ready." The maitre d' Marco smiled knowingly at me. He was among the few people who were aware that I had recently purchased the restaurant. "Not this evening." "Marco, the Madison Carter party is why I'm here." His brows went up a little, but he remained calm and professional. Naturally, I smoothed down my plain black dress in the big room. "Chanel, but only if you knew what to look for would you recognize it." I was like that. Perfectly subtle. In contrast to my sister Madison, who thought that achievement should be adorned with a crown, ideally one that was encrusted with diamonds. I followed the sound of laughter through the frosted glass doors to the private dining area. Madison's voice was as loud and authoritative as our mom's, and I could hear it. I inhaled deeply before pushing the door open. "Oh, you did come, Liv." Everyone in the room turned to listen to Madison's voice. Wearing a scarlet couture outfit that most likely cost more than most people's monthly rent, she stood at the head of a sophisticated table. James, her spouse, sat next to her and appeared disinterested in the proceedings already. The seats of honor next to Madison were held by our parents. Mom looking so well put together. Dad feigning interest in whatever James had to say regarding his most recent real estate endeavor. There were other aunts, uncles, and cousins sat at the main table, as well as my younger brother Tyler and his wife Sophie. I came over with a modest present bag and said, "Happy birthday, Madison." With a rehearsed grin, she took the bag and gave me an air kiss on the cheek. "Regards, my love. Over there, we've got you set up." She pointed to a smaller table in the corner that was obviously set apart from the main table and used to gather the children's table. When I saw that my cousin's kids were already seated there, my cheeks flushed. The oldest. No more than 12. I apologize. "What?" "We had to assign seats based on success status. You get it?" Others around the table repeated the main table, Madison added, laughing. "Regarding the grown-ups who have actual jobs. What do you do again, really?" A consultation of some sort. My mother gave me the same disillusioned expression I had been used to when I looked at her in the hopes of receiving some encouragement. The one who spoke. "If only your life investing strategy had been in line with ours." Knowing they wouldn't bother to comprehend anyhow, I said softly. "Yes, exactly." Madison dismissively waved her hand. "You'll enjoy yourselves with the children, though. Their business concepts for lemonade stands could teach you something." More giggling. Tyler didn't say anything, but at least he was polite enough to show discomfort. He didn't. For a time, I stood there weighing my choices. I could make a big deal out of it, or I could just smile and go to the kids' table. "Hi there, everyone." I addressed my youthful table companions who glanced up from their phones with a vague sense of curiosity. I took out my own phone and texted Marco as soon as I sat down. It's time for the special greeting we talked about. Madison had just begun to tell a story about how she had recently been promoted at her father-in-law's business. Marco arrived, followed by the customary champagne-carrying parade of the owner's servers. Marco said, "Ladies and gentlemen," in a voice that was the ideal balance of reverence and power. "Bella Luna welcomes you." Madison pretended, "We are especially honored to have you with us tonight." Her name was obviously expected to follow. Our whole restaurant group, including this one, was just purchased by our new owner. "Miss Olivia Mitchell, please." Halfway to the lips, the champagne glasses that had been raised in expectation froze. In a split second, Madison's expression changed from arrogant to shocked. Her lips was hanging open, gorgeously glossed. The man reached for her pearl necklace. She can tell when she's really shaken. "Liv." Tyler sputteringly managed to do it. I smoothed my clothing and gently got up from the children's table. "Yes, darling brother." If you possessed Bella Luna, Madison's voice had become disbelieving instead of condescending. "Actually," I remarked as I accepted Marco's glass of champagne, "the whole Mitchell Hospitality Group is owned by me. One of our latest additions is Bella Luna. On the East Coast, we own 37 properties." The ensuing hush was deafening. 20 sets of eyes gazed at me as though they had never seen me before. Perhaps they were, but however, at last Mom was able to. Savoring the occasion and the flavor of the champagne, I took a drink. Everyone thought that consultancy work was hilarious. My area of expertise is restaurant purchases and turnarounds. I have spent the last 10 years developing my business when everyone was busy ignoring me. "How come you didn't inform us?" Dad's cheeks flushed as he demanded. "Would you have paid attention?" I just asked. "Have you ever listened before?" Madison's face had become as gloomy as her gown. James, her husband, was suddenly interested in me and was probably mentally calculating the total worth of 37 upscale eateries. I turned to Marco and stated that the special anniversary champagne, which costs $2,000 a bottle, is what I think my sister asked for. Madison's gaze expanded. Yes, she had asked for it, most likely believing she could deduct it from her father-in-law's business. Putting it on my tab, Marco, I smiled. Family is family after all. Everyone in the room understood the irony of what I had said. Regardless of how you define success, I raised my glass to it. The remainder of Madison's birthday supper played out like a well-planned dance of unease. Every few minutes, someone at the main table would give me a short glance before swiftly averting their gaze. The 2,000 bottle of champagne remained mostly undisturbed. It seems that when someone else is paying for your accomplishment, it doesn't taste as good. I remained at the children's table, but now my little cousins were enthralled with me. Emma, 12, whispered, "Are you the true owner of this?" as I helped her chop her noodles into bite-sized pieces. I nodded. "That's very awesome. You were always the quiet one, according to Mom. The silent ones are sometimes simply working on a project." She giggled as I muttered back, but Madison wasn't quite coping with the information. Under the table, I could see her frantically texting, perhaps in an attempt to confirm what I had said about Mitchell Hospitality Group. "I wish you luck in your endeavor. I used a complex web of subsidiaries and holding companies to conceal my ownership. Only my core executive team was aware of who actually oversaw things before now." My mother eventually plucked up the confidence to come to my table as the dessert plates were being cleaned. Another anxious towel she had put on her lipstick again. "Olivia, dear," she said, trying to seem informal. "Tomorrow, how about we eat lunch the same as girls? We need to catch up on a lot of things." I took my time before answering, dabbing my handkerchief to my lips. "Mom, I'm afraid tomorrow is a full day. 3 properties board meetings followed by a flight to Miami to supervise our most recent acquisition." "Miami." She blinked quickly. "However, you never brought it up." "Mom?" I said a lot of stuff. Simply put, you never paid attention. She recoiled as though I had given her a backhand slap. Dad was sweating profusely, but I could tell that he was feigning to be engrossed in his phone. I think he was recalling all the times he brushed off my little consultancy firm at family get-togethers. Madison decided to make her big move at that precise moment. With high-end heels clicking on the wooden floor, she dragged her chair over to our table. "We ought to discuss potential joint ventures, Liv. James and I have considered entering the restaurant industry ourselves. They had, of course. They realized it was profitable now. I'm actually quite picky about my business partners," I mentioned. "I exclusively collaborate with those that genuinely love hospitality and aren't only interested in making money. We are family, though." Madison objected and reached across the table for my hand. I pushed mine aside while seeming to straighten my napkin. "Are we Since I wasn't even family enough to sit at your table an hour earlier? I inquired in a low voice. Her face was devoid of color. Liv, it was a joke. You're really sensitive. It wasn't a joke, no? Who is a power play when you have been producing since our childhood? I straightened my clothing and got to my feet. The distinctions. I get to create my own now. Marco had been quietly loitering close by when I turned to face him. Kindly let Mrs. Carter know that she will need to revalidate her standing reservation for Sunday breakfasts. A new membership system is being implemented. Madison could be heard gasping. She hosted her carefully chosen group of pals at those Sunday breakfasts, which were her social crown gem. You wouldn't risk it. I am, and I would. Actually, I went on loud enough for everyone to hear that the special status of the entire Carter family is being reviewed. At last, James's phone alarm crossed his face and he looked up. In order to impress customers, he utilized Bella Luna for all of his business meetings. Please make sure that Mr. Carter's business account is moved to our regular corporate rate structure, Marco, I added. No more exclusive savings. This is absurd. Madison sputtered. Dad, speak up. Our dad straightened his tie and got up, his method of getting ready for conflict. Now let's be sensible, Olivia. Your sister wasn't malicious. We are related. We ought to help one another. There was no comedy in my laughter, helping one another such as when I needed assistance launching my company. And instead, you advised me to find illegitimate employment. For example, Madison easily forgot about the money she borrowed from me for her wedding because family supports family. That was not the same. He made a feeble protest. You're correct. It was unusual since I was considered insignificant at the time. You all regarded me like I was just the family's failure back then. The silent one. The person who would be worthless. I picked up the pristine bottle of pricey champagne as I made my way to the main table. What's hilarious is that 3 months ago I purchased this restaurant group. Since then, I've attended every family meal. Hearing you all boast about your accomplishments, observing you as you sit me at the kids' tables or in the corner. None of you ever bothered to inquire about my life, career, or achievements. The room was completely silent. Even the children have given up using their phones for play, recognizing the seriousness of the situation. But I went on now. You suddenly think I'm worth talking to now that you know what I've created. I feel like family all of a sudden. I gave Marco the champagne. Return this to the cellar. We've all celebrated enough for one night, I believe. Tyler rose to his feet, a look of embarrassment flushing his cheeks. Livy, I apologize. I ought to have mentioned the seating sooner. Almost anything. Indeed, you ought to have. I concurred. But Tyler, you never do you? You like I used to, you simply observe and remain silent. The difference is that I became more vocal. My mother was still standing still next to the children's table when I turned to face her. You've always wished for me to resemble Madison more. More gregarious, more driven, more all-encompassing. Okay, Mom, congrats. I created something more significant than anything else. Madison has ever succeeded. Do you feel proud now? She parted her lips, then shut them again. Perhaps for the first time in her life, words failed her. I grabbed Hermes, my purse. They had moved, approaching the entrance without noticing. Tonight's dinner is free. Think of it as my final family charitable deed. Hold on, Olivia. Madison's voice cracked as she called out, Please, we can discuss this. This is something we can resolve. I stopped at the entrance and turned to face my family. Now, they were all standing in the opulent dining room, looking little and bewildered. No, Madison? We can't, as a single apology won't make up for years of contempt and disdain. Just because you understand I'm bigger than you initially believed doesn't mean you can undo a lifetime of making me feel little. What are you looking for from us? With a tone laden with resignation, my father inquired. Nothing, I stated plainly. I no longer want anything from you. That's what makes success so wonderful. It shows your true self and that of everyone else. I gave Marco a nod. Ensure their safe return home. Marco, too. Tomorrow, the new membership scheme we mentioned will be put into effect. When I was moving through the eatery, behind me, I could hear the start of startled discussions. The tale would go across their social circle by tomorrow. How silent. Olivia Mitchell, a young woman who owned one of the most prominent restaurant groups in the city, placed her family in their proper place for her sister's birthday dinner. I climbed into the rear seat and saw my driver waiting outside with the car. I saw that I was reflected in the glass. I seemed just as I had when I first walked in. Written, expert, subtle. However, something had changed. A burden that had been on me for years had been removed. There were incoming texts buzzing on my phone. Madison, Mom, even Tyler, James. I didn't read any of them before turning it off. Just like me, they would have to learn. That success has nothing to do with your social circle or the table you occupy. It's about what you accomplish when they're busy underestimating you and what you develop while no one is looking. My assistant sent me a stack of texts from my family the next morning. All morning long they have been phoning. I said, she said, the spouse of your sister seemed to be quite worried about his business account. I immediately tossed the mails into the shredder after retrieving them. I told them to provide the updated membership criteria to every property. Additionally, Sarah confirmed that the Carter family is not listed as favored. How about the brunches on Sundays? She inquired. I grinned as I recalled all the occasions Madison had kept me out of those priceless social events. Inform them that those seats are only available to individuals who recognize that success isn't determined by one's position. It has to do with how you treat others when you believe they are less important than you. With a little grin on her lips, Sarah nodded. She had been at my side from the start and had seen me gradually establish this empire while my family disregarded every success. Oh, and something else. In the great room, I added that children's table. Take it out of my restaurants. Everybody should have a place at the main table. I pondered what success actually meant as I sat at my desk and gazed out over the Boston cityscape. My family had always defined success in conspicuous ways, such as fancy vehicles, stylish clothing, and prominent residences. But I had discovered that true success isn't about flaunting things. It's about what you can create, what you can alter, and above all, who you become along the way. I took out my phone and placed a single call. This is Olivia, your cousin Emma. How would you want to get knowledge about restaurant management? One day, I believe you could possess the skills necessary to create something truly unique. Sometimes the silent ones are simply busy creating something amazing after all. Story 3. I had no intention of purchasing my brother's business, but Michael also had no intention of ceasing to make fun of my small store. Evenings in life may be amusing. The score. Crystal glasses were clinking as family members shared their most recent accomplishments at the annual Morrison family Christmas gathering. I saw my brother conduct court by the fireplace while drinking water from a champagne flute in a corner. The merger is nearly finished. Michael made the announcement to our appreciative family members while casually adjusting his Rolex. I'll be in charge of the whole West Coast business when Global Tech takes over our section. Like when Michael made varsity football, got accepted to an Ivy League school, or earned his first executive job. Our mother smiled proudly. My brother's touch converted everything to gold. That's what our family thought anyhow. Olivia. How about you, Margaret? Then turned to face me, her voice brimming with phony worry. Are you still operating your little business? As I considered the meeting I had planned for tomorrow morning, I nodded. Indeed. Still operating that little shop, you mean? Michael's chuckle pierced the room as he continued to counsel. Now what? 5 workers. 6. It was pointless for me to correct him. Give him time to reflect. Summit Consulting was only a little business. Give him faith. I devoted my days to assisting nearby companies with payroll and tax preparation. There was far greater curiosity in the truth. However, I had long since discovered that my family didn't care about the truth. You know, I could put in a word for you at Global Tech since Michael swirled his pricey scotch. Obtain a legitimate job. Something steady. Our dad gave us a nod of approval. Son, that's really kind of you. Olivia. You ought to think about it. Your age isn't decreasing. Additionally, you have that tiny consultancy thing. But isn't it more of a pastime than a job? Recalling the pile of acquisition documents on my desk at home, I tightened my hold on my glass. About 5 years ago, Summit Consulting ceased to exist, but my family still viewed me as the same struggling sister who had left her secure corporate position to pursue her own interests. Thank you, I'm good where I am. Silently, I said. Michael grinned. Yes, you are. Hi there, everyone. As usual, he commanded the attention of the room by raising his voice. Did I mention that tonight's party will be attended by the CEO of Global Tech, George Harrison? He is now almost like family. Our mother was so excited that she almost dropped her glass. This is George Harrison. Michael. Oh, that's fantastic. Knowing exactly why George Harrison was at our family's Christmas gathering, I looked at my watch. It had nothing to do with Michael's perceived value to the business. With every drink, Michael became louder and more cocky as the celebration went on. He went into depth about his post-merger plans, including how he would reorganize his division and make the necessary adjustments. He said that Global Tech needed new blood, someone who is aware of contemporary business. Harrison is nice, but he's overly cautious and old school. I'll show them how to do it when this merger is finalized. It nearly made me feel terrible for him. Nearly. It was precisely 8:30 p.m. when the doorbell rang. Michael prepared to see his CEO by adjusting his tie. "Now everybody," he declared, "be natural. Harrison is more than simply my employer. After the union, he will be a family member." George Harrison entered through the open door, his silver hair shining brightly. His presence immediately commanded respect. But instead of saying hello to Michael, he looked around the room before he came across me. He murmured, "Miss Morrison," as he passed my brother, who was in shock. "I appreciate you coming. I wanted to express my gratitude to you directly for making this change so easy." Michael's expression twisted in bewilderment. "I don't understand, sir. My sister is someone you know." Harrison had a startled expression. "Do you know her?" He looked from one of us to the other. "I'm here tonight because of Olivia, Miss Morrison. Global Tech was bought by her." There was utter silence in the room. Michael spilled his drinks on the pricey carpet as they fell out of his fingers. For support, our mother seized the closest chair. Dad's face had turned completely pale. "That is not feasible," Michael stumbled. "Olivia is the owner of a small consulting business. She handles bookkeeping for nearby businesses." I cautiously put down my glass. "Actually, Summit Consulting Group is a little bit more than that, my dear brother. As of yesterday, we, a worldwide corporate acquisition business, held a majority stake in international technology." I was finally revealing the truth that I had been keeping concealed for years. The Summit Consulting Group was more than simply my small business. It was among the nation's biggest private equity companies. I had quietly developed an empire while my family disapproved of my professional decisions. And now, my brother's business was part of that empire. The color had gone out of Michael's face. However, the merger. "I got promoted. Regarding that," I said quietly, "it is probably time for us to discuss some organizational adjustments." There was an overwhelming quiet in the room. As my family attempted to comprehend what they had just learned, I could almost hear their thoughts racing. As George Harrison went on, Michael stayed still, his empty glass still hanging from his fingers. Harrison claimed, apparently unaware of the tension, that Miss Morrison's acquisition team had been incredibly effective. The manner in which Summit Consulting arranged the transaction. Incredibly clever. "Michael, your sister is a true business whiz." Michael's face turned crimson instead of white. He muttered, "This is a joke." "It must be. Olivia doesn't. She is unable to." "Can't what, Michael?" I said softly. "Incapable of managing a profitable business. Cannot outsmart global technology. Is bored. You can't be more than your little sister who is battling." At last our mother was able to express herself. "Why haven't you told us all these years, Olivia, my love? We considered. You had the precise thinking you wanted to have." I interrupted her. "You all chuckled when Michael made fun of my small store at Thanksgiving last year, don't you? Or last Christmas when my father recommended that I enroll in some evening programs to enhance my chances." Dad moved apprehensively. "All we were worried about was your future." "The future?" I couldn't contain my laughter. "Dad, the assets managed by Summit Consulting Group are more than $12 billion. In the past 3 years, we have purchased 17 significant companies. That little store you were worried about so much, it just paid $4.2 billion to acquire Global Tech." Margaret also suffocated on her wine. Uncle David's tray of Christmas cookies fell on the ground. Michael appeared on the verge of blowing up. "This is not possible." He stepped closer to me and snarled, "You cannot simply enter my business and take control. For 8 years I have been employed there. I will soon be the director of the West Coast." Harrison cleared his throat. "Well, about that job?" "No." I paused quietly. "George, let me take care of things." I looked at my brother. "We must talk about your position at Global Tech, Michael." Role maybe someplace more private." An octave was added to his voice. That advancement was mine. "Your workplace isn't enough. I spoke aggressively. It was now an anxious stroll to his home office. As we exited the celebration, I could hear the rumors bursting out behind us. After us, Michael slammed the door. His executive poise, which he had worked so hard to preserve, broke. For what length of time he made a demand. How much time have you spent organizing this? Was all of this a plan for retaliation? I took a seat in his priceless status symbol, a leather chair, and saw him pacing. It may surprise you to learn that it's not all about you, Michael. For years, Summit has been interested in global technology. It was an odd coincidence that you work there. Is it a coincidence? He gave a sour laugh. Do you think you've always been envious of my accomplishments? I took out my phone and launched the app for my bank. Brother, let me show you something. I swiveled the screen in his direction. The number caused his eyes to widen. That isn't feasible. My own wealth. Calmly, I said. And I just keep fluids for that. The value of Summit Consulting Group is significantly higher. Michael, tell me about success once more. You all were worried about my future, tell me. His rage subsided a little when he dropped into a chair. Why did you never speak up? Did you think I was real? One of you. I reclined. You believed I was a failure too. Do you recall how work prevented me from attending my father's birthday celebration? You also implied to everyone that I was probably too ashamed to confess that I couldn't afford a present. That evening, I attended a board meeting to finalize the $2.8 billion acquisition of Turner Industries. Everyone assumed I was making excuses, though. There was a greenish tint to Michael's face. The Turner agreement. You were that person. However that implies. When he realized about the Madison merger last year, his eyes expanded. The purchase of Carson. Summit Consulting in its entirety. I attested. For years, we have been secretly purchasing businesses, establishing an empire. While you were all occupied with feeling sorry for me, he said, and now you own Global Tech? Do you own my business indeed? I straightened my clothing and got to my feet. In addition, I have certain reservations regarding the leadership of the West Coast division as the new owner. Michael jerked his head up. You wouldn't risk it. Would I not? I took a folder out of my luggage. I had packed it specifically for this occasion. Michael, let's discuss your performance reviews. Your risk assessments, the shortcuts you've taken, and the rules you've broken. That is commonplace in the corporate world. He objected. No, I snapped. It's careless, it's haughty, and it ends today under the leadership of the summit. He sagged down in his seat. That's all then. Are you letting me go? Your own brother? I slipped a paper over the desk, actually. I'm giving you an option. You have the option of accepting a lateral move or a transfer to our Minneapolis office. No promotion, but the same pay. Another option is to leave with 3-month severance. Minneapolis, his voice broke. However, my life is here, my connections and pals, your exaggerated feeling of significance. I added your executive parking space and your country club membership. Yes, you would lose everything, but you would still be employed. You have an option. Michael's hands trembled a little as he gazed at the page. Olivia. This is awesome. This is how you use your power. It is inhumane. Cruel. I got up slowly as if it were terrible to make fun of my business at every family get-together. As if it were horrible to inform our parents that I was a letdown. It was harsh to offer that I accept a position as your assistant. From outside came the sound of the celebration. As if they had always believed in me, I could hear our ancestors still talking about the revelation and rewriting history in their brains. You can't make up your mind till New Year's, I remarked as I made my way to the door. And Michael, too. The corner office about which you have been boasting. It's going to be a break room. When I got back to the party, my parents were gathered with Uncle David and Aunt Margaret. As I got closer, they stopped talking. With her arms out, my mother took a step forward. We had no idea, darling. Why didn't you tell us that you've been so successful all this time? I moved away from her as she tried to embrace me. Mom, would it have made a difference? Would your treatment of me have been different if Michael's achievement hadn't been as obvious? It would have, of course. She was adamant. Were you with your family? No. Silently, I said, my DNA is shared with your people. Family members help one another. Family members have faith in one another. Respect from family doesn't need achievement. My dad cleared his throat. We may have made mistakes, but we always had your best interests in mind, Princess. Did you? I arched an eyebrow. Or did you desire what your country club mates thought looked the best? At that moment, George Harrison came up, sparing them from having to respond. Miss Morrison, I'd better leave early. We will meet tomorrow to talk about the changeover. Naturally, I grinned. The final paperwork will be sent over by my team in the morning. I heard my mother whispering to Aunt Margaret as Harrison walked away. Have you heard that she has a group of people? I nearly chuckled at the ridiculousness. They felt proud now. They were intrigued now. My accomplishment was now apparent, measurable, and remarkable to their social circle. Looking shell-shocked, Michael came out of his office. He went directly to the bar and poured a huge drink for himself. Our family members rushed to him right away, but he was silent for once. I packed all my belongings and prepared to go. I hadn't intended to tell the truth in this manner, but maybe it was better this way. Unquestionable, public, and clean. So soon to leave? My dad inquired. However, we have a lot to discuss. You have to tell us everything about your business. In fact, I looked at my watch. Tomorrow, I have an early trip to London. Meeting of the board with an additional acquisition target, but my mother objected it's Christmas. Indeed, I grinned. You all understand why I can't remain for the first time. No more feigning embarrassment or difficulties to avoid family get-togethers. I'm successful, therefore I'm leaving. Because while you were all too busy questioning me to notice I created something remarkable, I made my way to the door and then made one final loop around. Oh, and Michael, do you recall your earlier statement that you would put in a good word for me at Global Tech? Don't stress over it. I believe I can get by on my own. As I drove away from my parents' house, the expression on his face nearly made up for years of disdain. My phone was buzzing with messages from family members who were anxious to get back in touch and learn about my business, to assert that they had always recognized my ability. I removed them all. They say that the finest form of retaliation is success. However, purchasing worldwide technology exposing my brother's mediocrity or even disproving my family's beliefs were not the true victories. The true triumph was never having to ask for their permission in the first place. Michael accepted the Minneapolis job 3 months later. He's doing well in middle management as far as I know. Having conveniently forgotten the years they spent discounting my accomplishments, my parents now proudly tell their acquaintances about their talented daughter who is an entrepreneur. Me, I just completed the acquisition of Mawson Technologies, a small business, the pride and delight of my father. He had always anticipated Michael would eventually take over the company. I had my assistant notify them of the ownership transfer. Some things are, after all, best conveyed in person, and a few more things. A message that reads from your small shop owner's desk is a superior way to convey certain information.